I want to turn now to this big Wall Street Journal article, which is like probably the most comprehensive and like mainstream account of the headline is how the White House functioned with a diminished Biden in charge. And there's a lot of stuff here, but
wait a minute. She's on the record. She's claimed she's fine.
Yes.
She's lied?
Wait, who?
I'm just a simple country lawyer. But maybe it's like, hey, yeah, I lied of total bullshit. Maybe you're like, you know what? You're bad. How can I believe you? I'm not publishing that.
yeah.
It's crazy not to work.
But it opens as such. It says here, during the 2020 presidential primary, Jill Biden campaigned so extensively across Iowa that she held events in more counties than her husband, a fact her press secretary at the time, Michael LaRosa, touted to a local reporter. His superior in the Biden campaign quickly chided him. As the three rode in a minivan through the state's cornfields, Anthony Bernal, then a deputy campaign manager and chief of staff to Joe Biden, pressed LaRosa to contact the reporter again and play down any comparison in campaign appearances between Joe Biden, then 77, and his wife, who is 8 years his junior. Her energetic schedule only highlighted her husband's more plodding pace, LaRosa recalls being told. The message from Biden's team was clear. The more you talk her up, the more you make him look bad. Now, I thought about this because Matt and Chris, we were at, I think, the only Joe Biden public event in the state of Iowa in the 2020 primary. And I remember, you remember what that was like? It was, it was maybe 20 actual voters and then like 50 journalists there, including us. And I remember thinking so clearly, just seeing him stammer and meander and just babble on and on and on. I remember feeling and thinking so clearly, this guy's political career is over. He is done. He's got no juice. He's got nothing. He's got nothing. He's going to retire.
I've been thinking about that moment frequently in light of this article, and there is a good Vic Berger edit video of some of our footage from there of that event being about 30 minutes long and it taking about 2 questions because it took him 16 minutes to answer the question.
I started. What is your climate change policy? I started a timer on my phone to see how long his answer would be, and I think it was like one of them clocked in at about 10 or 11 minutes.
And again, this was January or February of 2020.
Yeah. Returning to the Wall Street Journal. It says here, senior advisors were often put into roles that some administration officials and lawmakers thought Biden should occupy, with people such as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Senior Counselor Steve Ricchetti and National Economic Council head Lael Brainerd and her predecessor frequently in the position of being go-betweens for the president. Press aides who compiled packages of news clips for Biden were told by senior staff to exclude negative stories about the president. The president wasn't talking to his own pollsters as surveys showed him trailing in the 2024 race. Now, it says here, presidents have always had gatekeepers, but in Biden's case, the walls around him were higher and the controls greater, according to Democratic lawmakers, donors, and aides who worked for Biden and other administrations. There were limits over who Biden spoke with, limits on what they said to him, and limits around the sources of information he consumed. Throughout his presidency, a small group of aides stuck close to Biden to assist him, especially when traveling or speaking to the public. They body him to such a high degree, a person who witnessed it said, adding that the hand-holding is unlike anything other recent presidents have had. Once again, I feel like we broke this story years ago, or just anyone with a fucking eyes in their head could have published this story years ago.
Over the entire course of the Biden era, it has been true that when the time came, for the most part, up until the very end, to make a big public statement, he could like mostly get it together to like do a display, right? Like a big speech, a debate, like he could be solid enough along the time. But like just going to a campaign event was so stark. And then people would call you crazy for even joking about, oh, they're going to, shoot him up with the super soldier serum before the debate or whatever. They're like, this is a QAnon style conspiracy.
Yeah, the big thing with the Bernie debate was like they loaded him up with like, I think history. I think that history will vindicate me on this. That they gave him a speedball every time. It was a big day, but they loaded him up with whatever. The Bernie debate was like his best showing in a debate, probably in the last 2 cycles out of every debate he participated in. And then famously, every time there was like a thing like that where he performed above expectations, you would not see him for like 2 months.
Yeah.
He was like, Goku after a particularly like long story.
When he's traveling to Namek.
It's no use. I've got to stay here a little longer or I won't be able to help him anyway.
Yeah, it took a lot out of him. It was like Stannis Baratheon fucking to create the Shadow Baby. It just annihilated his life force.
Which again makes it like even more insidious in a weird way, because there's clearly like some kind of applied program from the highest level of handlers to keep this charade going in ways that aren't just like media manipulation, but on like a biological level with this ancient decaying man, you know?
Yeah, doing everything medically possible to prevent the visual reality that this is like a fucking 80-year-old man who is clearly in decline, but also just like the media environment they created for like 4 fucking years of like, if you mentioned this, you were doing disinformation. Like the Matt Iglesias thing where he says that like all the clips of him are deceptively edited. Like
that was the day before the debate.
Yeah.
The Pod Save guys kept talking about this idea of cheap fakes where they were doing like not quite AI, but, you know, taking a moment out of context and then putting it in like a vertical video format so you can't see the guy that he's talking to or what, you know. It's really gobsmacking that they kept this charade going with this much indignity for so long.
Well, it was at the height of like Russiagate stuff. It was when that stuff was at a fever pitch, and it was like the last ounce of goodwill they had on that like disinformation bullshit. And they spent it on Biden. They spent it on like, no, whatever you see that looks bad, that's Russia.
The subhead for this next section is titled Good Days and Bad Days. It reads, the president's slide has been hard to overlook. While preparing last year for his interview with Robert K. Hur, the special counsel who investigated Biden's handling of classified documents, Robert K. Hur, H-U-R, Hur? Oh, Biden.
Hur?
Who? Hur?
Who?
Her? Y'all gonna make me lose my son. Up in her.
Her?
At events, aides often repeated instructions to him, such as where to enter or exit a stage that would be obvious to the average person. This is great. Biden's team tapped campaign co-chair Jeffrey Katzenberg, a Hollywood mogul, to find a voice coach to improve the president's fading warble. I'd like to imagine they hired
coach.
I'd like to imagine that they hired the guy that taught Robert De Niro how to talk like a guy from Louisiana for Cape Fear.
Well, hiring a voice coach for a guy who has dementia is like if Stephen Hawking was like, good news, I hired a sprinting coach. You'd be walking in no time.
I'm working with Usain Bolt on how I come off the blocks. Biden, now 82, has long operated with a tight-knit inner circle of advisors. The protective culture inside the White House was intensified because Biden started his presidency at the height of the COVID pandemic. His staff took great care to prevent him from catching the virus by limiting in-person interactions with him, but the shell constructed for the pandemic was never fully taken down, and his advanced age hardened it. The structure was also designed to prevent Biden, an undisciplined public speaker throughout his half-century political career, from making gaffes or missteps that could damage his image, create political headaches, or upset the world order. The system put Biden at an unusual remove from cabinet secretaries, the chairs of congressional committees, and other high-ranking officials. It also insulated him from the scrutiny of the American public, which this just seems like, once again, like 2020 Mickey Mouse bubble election, and COVID was basically the only thing that allowed Biden to win that election by essentially removing him from having to be in public or campaign.
Yeah, COVID weirdly benefited both candidates in that for Trump, Trump in 2018, 2019, it was hard to say like what the Trump movement was like about, because they had succeeded at like one thing that they tried to do, which was the tax bill. All these other things had just caused like huge backlash, and they like backpedaled or they failed on their own. And by 2018 or 19, there was no like motivating factor, and COVID like it gave him something where like he could look busy, and American voters like weirdly really didn't blame him for it, like people thought they would. And for Biden, yeah, it allowed him to just campaign from a fucking basement.
Well, that's the thing about the basement is like, and the real total failure of Biden world here is that they have retroactively made Trump's accusations during the 2020 campaign, that he's trapped in the basement and that he's like a puppet candidate. He was right. He was completely right about that. And at the time, it was like portrayed in the media and by Democratic operatives as this completely spurious accusation that they're trying to undermine Biden's COVID precaution. But guess what? Exactly what he was accusing him being, of an ancient man who won't leave his house, who's surrounded by a cadre of impenetrable advisors who are doing everything for him. Retroactively true.
I would have loved to have seen, like, if COVID never happened and they still ran Biden, like, what would the excuse be? He has mono.
He's been kissing.
The sniffing disease.
He caught mono at the Garfield convention. He was fucking a bunch of 70-year-olds.
It's just further on. It says here, ideally, speaking of the meetings with Robert Hur, the special counsel, ideally the meetings would start later in the day, since Biden has never been at his best first thing in the morning. I mean, same. Some of the people said his staff made these adjustments to limit potential missteps by Biden. The president, known for long and rambling sessions, at times pushed in the opposite direction, wanting or just taking more time. The White House denied that his schedule had been altered due to his age. If the president was having an off day, meetings could be scrapped altogether. On one such occasion in the spring of 2021, a national security official explained to the other aide why a meeting needed to be rescheduled. He has good days and bad days, and today was a bad day, so we're going to address this tomorrow, the former aide recalled the official saying. This is in the spring of 2021. This is like right after he was inaugurated, that he was having
Wednesday,
good days
Tuesday,
and bad days.
Wait, Saturday, Sunday.
Just another manic Monday.
Yes.
In the fall of 2023, Biden faced a major test when Hur, the special counsel, wanted to interview him. Hur. The president wanted to do it, and his top aides felt that his willingness to sit down with investigators set up a favorable contrast with Trump, who stonewalled the probe into why declassified documents appeared at Mar-a-Lago, according to people familiar with the sessions. The prep sessions took about 3 hours a day for about a week ahead of the interview, according to a person familiar with the preparation. During these sessions, Biden's energy levels were up and down. He couldn't recall lines that his team had previously discussed with him, the person said. A White House official pushed back on the notion that Biden's age showed in prep, saying that the concerns that arose during those sessions were related to Biden's tendency to overshare. Oh, he's talking
I'm
about
afraid
Dr.
that I'm
Jill
a
again.
selfish partner. Sometimes I don't like getting my dick sucked. I think it's the SSRIs. I think it, I had a lot of problems in my life of being a middle child, and I take it out and managing my intimacy with multiple partners.
What says the actual interview didn't go well. Transcripts showed multiple blunders, including that Biden didn't initially recall that in prep sessions he had been shown his own handwritten memo arguing against a surge of troops in Afghanistan. The report, one of just a few lengthy interviews with Biden over the past 4 years, concluded with a recommendation that Biden not be prosecuted for having classified documents in his home because a jury was likely to view him as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I wish they had taken that to trial. To just have a defense attorney be like, I mean, just look at him. He doesn't even know he's here.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
They should have done something where it was like Trump gets to be the prosecutor for the Biden documents. Was this a documents thing?
Yeah, this is the
There's so many
documents case.
documents things going on. Like, gee, I could not be a politician. I would be getting yelled at all the time. I would be giving documents to like my gardener. I'd be like, I'm just trying to get rid of this. But Trump should have gotten to be the prosecutor for the Biden documents trial, but Biden should have gotten to be the prosecutor for the Trump documents in the bathroom trial. That would have satisfied everyone.
And they both get to prosecute each other, and they both get to jail one another. And they both,
the death
actually
penalty
they have to swap lives. Is the sentence is that Joe Biden has to live in Mar-a-Lago with Melania, and Donald Trump has to move in with Dr. Jill and Hunter. I think he might enjoy that though.